right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. Always excited when we hit June, because in June, we celebrate our ocean. Of course, we celebrate it all year long, but with June 8th being World Ocean Day, we've got a great week jam-packed of ocean events for your classrooms to tune into. So if you head over to exploringbytheseat.com, you can find all of those events. You can also head over to the page listed as Ocean Week events, and you can find a few more tucked away under there. So we've got a great event in store for you today. Today, we are going to learn about a little ocean rowing action. But before we do that, I want to bring in my friend Doug Woodring. So Doug is joining us from Hong Kong right now. So he's 12 hours ahead of us on the other side of the world, calling us from the future. He's the founder of Ocean Recovery Alliance, so focused on bringing innovative solutions, technology, collaborations, and policy together to have positive impact and improvements for the health of our ocean. So let's bring Doug in here for a moment. Hey, Doug, how's it going?
Joe, how are you? Good morning from Hong Kong. It's our evening. As you said, we're in the future.
Absolutely. Your day is winding down. You're going to see a new day shortly.
Yeah, Ocean Day, World Ocean Day in 1 hour.
Yeah, excellent.
Got me ready to celebrate.
Awesome. Good stuff, Doug. Well, Doug, tee us up for this event and a little bit about the education side of it, because it's really exciting and it's going to be a lot of fun for students to follow this summer.
Yeah, this is not only just an event. This is an 11-month extravaganza across the Pacific Ocean. So you're going to hear from Erden in a few minutes, but we're super excited. Ryan and I in Hong Kong, and along with you, Joe, and a few others, Michael, and in California with Kids Ocean Day, we're going to be building a whole education program as Erden sets off at sea in 10 to 14 days, and he's going to row to us in Hong Kong. That's the first time ever someone's crossed the Pacific Ocean. It's almost 8,000 miles north of the equator. Many times when people row across the Pacific, they go from California to Australia, and they go south of the equator because of the trade winds and the currents. Erden is going from continent to continent, and our education program is going to have everything you can think of, from currents to animals to clouds to plastic, of course, which is a lot what we work on, the ecosystem, sports, health. How do you make water? How do you survive at sea? What happens when the waves come? And we're hoping to have Erden live with some of your schools every 2 weeks for this 11-month journey with you, Joe, and exploring by the seat of your pants. And it's going to be in Chinese and English, at least on the website, which will be on our website, oceanrecover.org. And Westbound Rower. Westbound Rower is the name of the event. And we hope you can all tune in and start sharing with friends, because there's going to be so much we can learn. We have our colleagues and friends at the University of Hawaii, Nikolai Maximenko and Jan Hafner, who are global current flow experts on plastic and movements. And they're going to help guide Erden once he gets around Hawaii, basically through the channel of the Luzon Strait between the Philippines and Taiwan, where there's a huge current and eddy at the time of year that he's going to get there. And he's got to avoid typhoons along the way. And if he doesn't get in the right place, he might not make it to Hong Kong. He might get somewhere else along the coastline. And that's where the geography classes come in. So let's get to Erden, find out about his boat. And we look forward to, 11 great months with you guys and learning about the ocean, because we're all here to protect it and appreciate it. Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. Doug, thanks so much. As you mentioned, there'll be some great curriculum for students to take advantage of. I know yourself and Ryan are working on a beautiful story map, which we'll share out to all the classrooms over the 2 months of summer coming up. Classrooms can follow Erden's journey. And then in September, we'll be able to have the classrooms back in action again, which is going to be a lot of fun to do those live connections. All right. So I'm going to tug Doug away temporarily. And so from, I guess, the future, we're going to go back a little bit. So we've got Erden Eruc joining us he's on the west coast of California right now. He's a Turkish-American adventurer. He was the first person in history to complete an entirely solo and entirely human-powered circumnavigation of the Earth, holder of 15 Guinness World Records. And he is going to introduce us to this amazing journey he's about to undertake, and also raising great awareness for a variety of issues, including plastics in our ocean. So let's bring Erden in with us right now. Hey, Erden, how are you?
Hi, Joe. Thank you for having me on your program.
Oh, it's great to have you, Erden. I didn't mention this yet, but we've got classrooms across North America joining us right now. We've got a group of 6 classrooms live on camera with us, and we're going to turn them loose with questions in a little bit. And then we have a whole ton of students tuning in via YouTube. They're sending in comments right now. They're introducing themselves. So it's going to be a great time, Erden. We're excited to get to know you a little better and hear about what you're going to do.
Let me show off my shirt too. See that?
All right. Great shirt.
Environment Day, June 5th.
That's right. It's a big month this month. Environment Day, World Ocean Day. Absolutely. Yes. All right. Well, Erden, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit. Let's hear a little bit about yourself, a little bit about what's coming up.
Yes, I am planning to row from Crescent City in Northern California, hopefully nonstop to Hong Kong. That's my preferred point of landfall. I expected that I should get there in March of 2022. Any later than that, I would be exposed to stronger storms. And so it's going to be a navigation task and storm avoidance task and a lesson in survival. I am crossing my fingers that everything will be going fine. As you mentioned, I have already completed a human-powered circumnavigation between 2007 and 2012. I also have a project that I called 6 Summits Project in memory of a friend that I lost while rock climbing together. His name was Göran Kropp. He was Swedish. He had bicycled from Sweden to Nepal in 1996. He was famous for that. He had encouraged me to get started with my own journey. And when I lost him while rock climbing together in September of 2002, I decided that I should hit the highest summits on 6 different continents except Antarctica. So I climbed Mount McKinley in 2003, then Kosciuszko and Kilimanjaro during my circumnavigation. Those are the highest points in Australia and Africa, respectively. So next up is Everest. When I reach Asia, mainland, hopefully at Hong Kong, I will then plan a bicycle ride to foothills of Everest, attempt that in post-monsoon 2022. That will be the autumn of 2022, and then bicycle through Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, into Russia. At the border of Georgia, I will climb Elbrus in March of 2023, and then carry on to Portugal that summer and launch from there fall of 2023 for South America by rowboat. So it's a big project. It may result in yet another circumnavigation by human power. It may even be faster than what I did before, which was 5 years, 11 days. So I would. I am not hearing you.
Yeah, no worries. I missed the mute.
Okay.
We got it now. Absolutely incredible, Erden. I mean, 11 months on the ocean solo, followed by, the journeys you just told us about. That's, a large amount of time. It's going to take a lot of physical strength, a lot of mental strength. And, I'm curious because we've hosted a few ocean rowers on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and we see different methods. Some train a lot beforehand, before getting into the water. Others, kind of get into the water and let the training happen while they're going. What's your style?
A bit of both. I have to be fit enough to avoid injuries in the first 2 weeks. And every stroke counts. And then I don't expect performance until 4 to 6 weeks into the row. So I have to time the departure just right, have the right conditions so that the seas will help me as best they can. And then once out there, I'll be in fighting shape soon enough. There's so much to do ahead of a departure, and I am a one-man show here most of the time. So sometimes the training takes a backseat.
All right, fair enough. Well, you mentioned so much to do before departure. You're, potentially 10 to 14 days out from hitting the water. What's going on right now? How are you getting ready? Is it a scramble? Do you feel relaxed? What's going on?
My anxiety level will keep ramping up right up to departure, and then once I hit the water and the first stroke happens by the oars, then it'll be all calm and I'll be focused. So right now my challenge is to stash 10-11 months worth of food on this rowboat. It was designed for 2. There is enough room. I just need to make sure that everything fits properly. Configuring all the communications gear so that I would have a proper connection from the ocean is the remaining challenge here. A few fixes here and there on the boat, but we are mostly ready. So, and I will show you the boat in the background right there. It's on its trailer. There's the boat. I pulled it out. Hopefully I won't lose broadband connection as I walk toward the boat. And this boat took me across 4 ocean crossings. I became the first person to have rowed 3 oceans using this one rowboat. So it has 3 rowing stations. If 2 persons were to row together, they would use the front and aft positions. And if one goes into the cabin, the remaining one would use the middle position. I will be using the aft or middle position depending on the conditions. The trim of the boat is important, meaning how level it is. If I move my weight to the back, then the bow gets lighter and the boat will behave better with seas, following seas. She'll point downwind and downwave. We added these custom solar panels on the sides, and before I used to have just solar panels on top of the cabin. Now I have more on the sides as well. So we added another 180 watts of capacity to this power production on this boat. So I have just about 280 watts of capacity now. So my batteries, I have 2 batteries, gel batteries, that don't spill if I tip the boat. Just a moment. I have traffic passing. So these 2 batteries get charged using the solar panels, and from it, using a 12-volt system, I power my chart plotter, for example. I charge my satellite phone, all my communication systems, my lights, anything that I need on the boat that requires electricity uses those batteries. My desalination unit is a major power hog, I should say. It uses about 3 amps, just over 3 amps. And I can produce 4 to 6 liters of water using that desalination unit. And that is required to drink, to rinse myself, to get salt off my skin and off my clothing. And that is important because the skin then, skin health is critical in these crossings. If I let the salt sit on my skin, it cooks the skin really, and it causes itching, and the itching is terrible. If you scratch, you break the skin, and it itches even more with the salt. So I'm going to go near my router inside so I have better reception.
All right. Well, that came through nice and clear for us, Erden. It always amazes me looking at a boat like that and to think about 11 months in the open Pacific Ocean. A lot of us have been isolating at our homes, but this is kind of like the ultimate self-isolating that you're about to undertake.
It is. One has to be comfortable in one's own skin, and to earn these Guinness World Records on the wall, sometimes you have to commit, break a lot of sweat, put in sweat equity, and earn them. And loneliness is not a problem for me. I know that I am not alone. I have all the students following me. I have you supporting my educational mission at our nonprofit around and over. We have Doug and Ryan in Hong Kong preparing all sorts of educational content for us to make sure that we create value from this endeavor. So all of these add to my sense of mission about all this. And if I have an overriding mission, then the adventure becomes the icing on the cake.
Yeah, absolutely. So a few questions popped in on the chat, and then we'll start meeting some of our live classrooms as well. But a lot of questions about the food and the drink. So what kind of food have you packed aboard? And then you mentioned the desalination, so 4 to 6 liters a day. Do you have any other sources that you can use? Maybe a hand pump or something? Any other water sources?
Yes. Let me start addressing the water issue. Water is critical while at sea. I have the desalination unit using the 12-volt system that will generate 4 to 6 liters an hour if it works properly. And that water is my source of drinking water. And I also boil that water using a handheld butane canister stove and add it into these free pouches. And if I let it sit for, say, 15 minutes or so, those meals become edible. They are quite tasty. They've improved the technology on this, and they last forever, essentially. So there is an expiration date on them, but that's for show. They last forever. I can rely on this as my main staple. And as I said, so it's for drinking, for reconstituting the food, for rinsing my clothing and my skin. So fresh water is critical. If that fails, the electrical system, then I do have a hand pump. It does also generate 4 to 6 liters an hour, but imagine pumping that thing. It's hard work. It's a different motion than it has a big long lever that you have to squeeze, and it's tiring work. So what I do if I have to use that is to divide the water production process to my needs. So I wake up in the morning, I make 1 cup, I drink it, I start rowing. And then a couple hours later, I make 2 cups so that I can have my meal, and then basically spread it during the day so it doesn't feel like a chore. I don't sit there and pump a gallon of water, for example, with that. I also have my ballast water. I have 100 liters of ballast water below my rowing station that provides ballast. It keeps the center of mass of the rowboat low so that she can have the riding properties just right. With the cabin doors closed, the cabin space provides volume that provides lift, and with that center of mass being low, cabin providing the lift, there's a riding moment that rights this boat very aggressively. She doesn't like to be on her side at all. So this is a purpose-designed vessel. Yes, I need to drink at least 6 liters, 8 liters a day, because I do sweat. I will be in the tropics. That answers, I think, the food. I also have nuts and raisins and dried fruits, the variety, powdered drinks, energy bars, protein bars, that kind of stuff. And 1 a day vitamin pill, just in case I have gaps in my nutrition.
Fair enough. All right, well, let's start pulling in some live classes, Erden, and let's see what questions they have. I can see our 5th graders in Hammer, Ontario sent in a great question. So if you want to turn your mic on, I'll pop you in. You can ask that question. There we go. All right.
So one of my students wants to know about your world record. So what world record would you consider your greatest achievement?
Oh my gosh. I think the first solo circumnavigation by human power represents the sum total of all records, because everything else was a step toward that big record. I ended up setting 15 Guinness World Records along the way, and one of which was the fastest circumnavigation by human power, and the other is first solo circumnavigation by human power. The circumnavigation was such a big goal that even if I had doubts in the beginning about whether or not I could achieve it, I had to become the person who could establish 15 Guinness World Records and establish historic firsts. I had to grow to achieve that goal. So my advice to all the students is to never shortchange themselves, set themselves big goals, because along the way, they're going to grow.
All right, good stuff. Great question to get us started. Reminder to those tuning in via YouTube, I can see some questions coming in. Keep those questions coming for us. We're going to go to Miss Langer's crew, 3rd and 4th graders hanging out with us. How we doing, Miss Langer?
Oh, we're very good. Thank you. I have a bunch of questions coming in from my students, but I do want to ask, I am friends with Colin Sanders, and he did a solo row from the Canary Islands to Antigua. Took him 83 days. And when we chat, he says that the greatest impact is the mental toll. And I know that you've talked about that. And he said he didn't realize it actually until he finished his journey. I guess in survival mode when you're doing all of that. So, you know, beyond your dedication to your friend, what is drawing you to keep doing these things mentally? How are you preparing yourself? And maybe that can help our own students when they're coming to challenges of their own.
I think part of the answer has to be the passion that one has for the chosen activities. If we find an area for which we have passion, we don't mind the toil, we don't mind the suffering, we don't mind the challenges. We take it on as part of doing business, right? Cost of doing business, really. So I enjoy solitude. I miss it. I feel like I am demonstrating mastery out there. I feel like ocean is speaking to me. I like being one with the environment. I like that raw challenge on its own terms. I feel that the ocean is the best teacher that is out there. It's honest. If I have prepared well, she says, good job, passage granted. If I have gaps in my preparation, she finds the gaps and then just slaps me with those problems at sea, saying, you should have prepared better. You knew better. And of course, that's lesson learned that I can apply to my next ocean row to suffer less. So it's, I think, a growing process, as I was suggesting.
All right. And I think that's great advice too. We always try to, you know, share that different scientists, different explorers who join us, that if you find something you're passionate about and you can do that, you know, make a career of it, it doesn't feel like work. So that's a really exciting thing to find. Chase your passion and go after, you know, what you love to do. Definitely seems like you're doing that, Erden.
I hope so.
All right, let's grab another group here. We're going to go to Van Zant Elementary. We've got some students in the classroom. There they are. Hey, everyone.
Hola. There we go. Go ahead.
Hi. Go ahead. Hi, I'm Ryan from Van Zant, and my question is, how will you be going nonstop?
Hi, Ryan. I will not be going nonstop as in never stop rowing. I will go nonstop as in never pull into a harbor. My boat will keep moving during the crossing. I certainly will be resting along the way. My physical work is as important as resting, and recovery is a critical part of my physical activity. So as I sleep and rest at night, the boat will be carrying on with the seas. I've designed my route so that the boat will follow trade winds and currents and the swells. Those are the three forces that act on my rowboat. And that determines the most likely to succeed route that I have designed. My fight will be to stay on that. As I rest at night, the boat will follow the general direction I want to go, and then I will correct course to come back on the route that I designed during the day. So I cover about 30 miles a day, and the boat will keep moving, even though I may stop to rest on the boat, but never on land along the way.
All right. And so a couple questions coming in via YouTube. Jacqueline and Sansa are both wondering, when you're sleeping, are you using anything to stay on course? Anything like a sea anchor? Anything you're using?
I don't use a para-anchor or a drogue unless the conditions justify it. As the seas build and waves get big, I would deploy something. This time I will be deploying it from the stern. I used to launch it from the bow. We changed the configuration of the boat a little bit. It'll behave better if I deploy it from behind the boat. And so the bow will be lighter as I'm in the cabin in the back, and the boat will behave better. So we use the drogue to line the boat perpendicular to the waves as the seas build, because we don't want the boat turning sideways and then getting rolled by a wave. That would not be fun. Or being pitch poled, actually. So if I have a really big wave coming and pushing the boat from the stern, the bow could slide down and dig in, and then it could pitch pole end over end. That would be disastrous. We don't want that. So that's why we use a para-anchor or a drogue to provide directional stability to the vessel. Normally, I would not use that. I would let the boat run with the seas so that I can cover distance. I have covered up to 13, 14 miles. Well, on average, it's about 10 or 11 miles every night that I would cover while sleeping.
Okay. We're going to head to Calgary, Alberta. Mr. Carr's class is joining us. How are we doing today?
Good morning. Really fascinating stuff. The adventures you've had all around the world. When things are going well, you get into a routine and the days seem to just pass one after another. I'm curious, in all of your adventures, can you describe a situation where things went wrong, a piece of equipment failing, an emergency that you had to deal with?
Well, there is more than one example. Obviously, it was a long journey. Things do go wrong. For example, my rowing seat fell apart while on the Pacific Ocean in 2008. And I lost the ability to use my legs because I was using a sliding seat. When it fell apart, then I took apart the box that housed my chart plotter. I found a different way of mounting my chart plotter, and I took that box and put it under me and made a little bench, and I was still able to row using that setup. I used my back and my arms, not my legs anymore. I lost some power, but I was able to keep going. I didn't just throw up my hands and say I give up. I had to come up with a solution. So when problems arise, I am always in a problem-solving mode. I go through my options and I take the best option, see if I can make that work. If not, try another solution. So quitting is not an option, because that's a decision that is permanent. Once I quit, it's done. We have to then figure out how I'm going to get off the water, how we're going to recover the boat. All of those logistical issues kick in, and it's no longer fun and an adventure anymore after that. Another episode was when I, for example, found myself in knee-deep slurry of mud on a road construction that I encountered in Tanzania. They took me off the pavement with my bicycle and on a service road that was on the side, which had been chewed up by passing heavy vehicles. And these deep ruts were nearly impossible. And there was bush on either side that didn't allow me to pull aside and get away from the traffic. So I was very worried. The night was approaching, and fortunately I did not give up, and I was able to get onto the road construction itself, and I had the whole highway to myself. No workers were around. Nobody to stop me, get me off this new construction of road. So I had an empty highway newly constructed and paved so I could carry on. So I didn't quit. I found reward on that.
All right. I'm sure that's one of a lot of different stories of times you've had to think on your feet, be flexible, solve problems, and I'm sure maybe right in the moment it doesn't seem fun, but it must feel pretty good afterwards when you solve one of those problems and you're back on the go. All right. Mr. Bacha, let's bring him into the call. How are we doing today, sir?
Good. My class is wondering to know, what does the cabin look like? What's the sleeping situation? Are you able to sleep in there? Is there a bed or a sink or?
There's no sink. There's no refrigerator. There are no creature comforts other than a 3 centimeter thick closed cell foam that would be under me in the cabin. So the cabin feels like a 2-person tent, and in that dry space, I am sheltered from the elements. That's where all my electronics live as well. So it's fairly comfortable, but no, I don't have a sink.
All right. Do you, just kind of building on that a little bit, do you, when you do sleep, are you going to strap yourself in if the weather's a little bit rougher?
Absolutely. I have 4 eyes that are screwed at different places in the vessel. 2 of them are such that I can put a dock line across my waist, and the other 2 are by my shoulders, so I can cross-strap myself across my chest. So that keeps me pinned on the mattress. So imagine this: if I were laying there untied, and in big seas, in storm conditions, the boat was turned on its side or upside down. And in that moment, I would fall from the mattress onto the ceiling. But now the boat is upside down. The ceiling is under me. So I am sitting on the ceiling, keeping the boat down. I've become ballast, right? So the boat would not be able to naturally right itself, and that would be a huge disaster, which means that I would have to actually open the cabin door, flood the cabin, get outside, and figure out how I'm going to right this boat. So to avoid that kind of a scenario, I would need to stay tied down to the mattress, keep my center of mass low, closer to the boat's center of mass, which is also low. And with the buoyancy that the cabin provides, the boat would right itself naturally. So I wouldn't get tossed at the ceiling. I would stay with the mattress.
All right. I've got a question here on YouTube from Zach, and he wants to know, do you ever get bored when you're paddling out on the water? Are there things you do to pass the time? Maybe some music? What do you do? Count seagulls? Is there anything you do to pass the time?
You hit the nail on his head. That's the biggest problem on the rowboat, actually, other than dealing with the elements and skin problems and such, rashes, all that kind of stuff. Boredom is a big problem, because in the city, when you get bored, you can say, okay, I'm going to stand up and take a walk, come back. I'm going to go play a little bit, come back. I'm going to call my friend, and I'm going to go make myself a little sandwich and come back. You can distract yourself all day long and not get anything done in the process. So that's a danger. So that's the kind of stuff that we deal with in the city. Distractions are possible, and boredom can be somewhat controlled and addressed. At sea, I am alone, and my mind races. There is nothing that I can just say, okay, I'm going to turn on the TV and blow off steam some. I don't have that option. I am alone with my thoughts. I am dealing with the challenge. I'm sweating. I'm tired. Maybe I'm hot. So the way that I deal with these stream of thoughts that may come in is sometimes, well, I have to break that chain of thought. I have good thoughts planning the future. I have nice reflections of friendships. I have good memories that come and go. But then I also have these silly thoughts about, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, regrets coming in, relationships that I didn't enjoy, or things that bother me, or thoughts of quitting, fatigue. So when I get these negative thoughts, then I have to suppress them. I have to do a bit of meditation. The meditation is not your, oh, let's sit and quietly focus on our breathing stuff, but it could be different. I can focus on the sound of the oars coming in and out of the water. I can focus on the waves splashing against the cabin. I can pick out one bird out of the circling school of birds, I should say, maybe, depending on the species, these terms vary. I can pick one bird and try to isolate its sound and focus on that. So when you, and then I've also done multiplication tables. I start from 1 times 1 equals 1, 1 times 2 equals 2. By the time you get to 4 times 1, you've forgotten what you were thinking of. So these kinds of tools come in handy to keep the thoughts in check, to keep things positive. I also set myself goals. So I turn everything into a reward on the vessel. If I want to have that protein bar, I say to myself, well, you have to earn it first. 2 hours of rowing and you'll get it. If I want music, I say, well, you'll get it in the afternoon. Enjoy the sunrise and the cool morning at this time. So I try to delay that instant gratification that the child in me wants right now. And the adult in me says, oh, step back, you have to earn it first. So it is a lot of self-control and growth that happens along the process.
All right. We've got one more class I want to visit. Mr. Call's 5th, 6th graders who are joining us. Let me pop them into the call here. There we go.
Hi. One of the questions we had from our students, what inspires you to do all these amazing things?
Yes, I've been active all my life. From a young age, I was involved in track and fields, wrestling, and then picked up judo. I ran marathons. I've been active. I've climbed my first mountain with my father when I was 11, a 4,000-meter extinct volcano back in Turkey. So I have had this desire to be outdoors for a long time. And when in 1997, while working at a software development lab, I traced my finger across a world map that was hanging on the wall. I said, what if? I had started in Washington, D.C. This was a special map with the Pacific in the middle, old world on the left, and America's on the right. So I traced my finger across the Bering Strait all the way to Turkey, and I even gave it a name, Journey Home. I asked, what if? Could I do this by human power? And that was really the germination of it all. And as soon as I asked what if, then I had to answer how questions, and each how question was a problem to be solved. I'm an engineer, I'm wired that comfortable. And how am I going to cross the Bering Straits? How am I going to find the time, find the money? I had to solve all these problems before I could get started. So that was 1997. And I started reading books about this because quickly I found that not everybody needed to know. People were cynical. They were asking, have you done anything like that before? Surprising how easily that rolls out of people's mouths. Everybody has that one question. Have you done anything like that before? They're ready to judge. So one lesson I learned is that I need to protect this dream. I needed to keep it close to my chest and figure out how I was going to get going. One of the books that I read was Ultimate High about Göran Kropp. He had bicycled from Sweden to Nepal in '96. And when we had the chance to go climbing for the first time together in September of 2002, he fell and he died. And that's when I decided that life is short. That's why, I got interrupted with a phone call. So that's why I had to, I decided that I was going to do my journey, my circumnavigation, and in memory of Nyoran, I added the highest summits on 6 different continents to reach them by human power as he had Everest. So that's really how it all started. In 97, tracing my finger across a map, and then getting going. Starting in 2002, really changing direction of my life. I was an engineer before, and now I'm an outdoor athlete.
All right. Well, that a lot has happened since that tracing of the finger in 97. And it doesn't seem like you're slowing down anytime soon. So pretty amazing. I'm going to bring Doug back in with us as we get close to kind of wrapping up for today. But a question that came up from some of the live classrooms and YouTube was, what kind of sea life do you expect to encounter around along the way? What kind of ocean life do you think you'll see? All right, looks like we may have lost that connectivity for a moment here. So we'll see if it clears itself or if Erden has to exit and come back in for us. But we'll bring Doug in for a moment here. Hey, Doug.
Hi, Joe. How are you? I don't know
Good,
if Erden's frozen, but I asked Erden the same question the other day. I said, have you seen the flying squid before? Because when we were out on one of our expeditions looking at plastic about 12 years ago, there was a story that there were flying squid, and everyone's heard of flying fish. But there is a Japanese version of flying squid that we saw. And Erden said he's found them on his boat before in his last crossing. He's never seen them fly, but they land on his boat sometimes at nighttime. You also have some fish. There's less fish than there used to be for people crossing. And, one of the questions we asked Erden is, how much fish do you eat if you have a chance to get the fish? Erden, you're back. We're asking about fish. Do you ever eat fish when you're at sea?
I actually have given up on catching fish. I don't like to kill the fish, really. I don't mind eating it, but I don't want to be the one killing it. I also catch big fish, and I have no means of storing the excess of fish that I have. Larger fish are not easy to handle. So I am actually using flying fish that falls on deck, and if the size is large enough justifying the effort, I clean one and add it into, or a couple, add them to my breakfast. So that's what I do.
Because you have no refrigeration, so you can't sort of pack it away and eat it for 1 week. You either have to eat a little bit or you can't get any of it. And it makes probably a big mess on your deck too, right?
It is a lot of work to clean it, to boil it, to prepare it. And I don't want to do sushi or sashimi kind of treats out of those, because I cannot count on identifying parasites if they are in the fish. So I cannot take chances out there. And if I eat 3-4 helpings of the fish, within 24 hours, maybe at most 36 hours, I have to consume the whole thing. If I haven't, then I have to throw it overboard. I cannot take chances with the fish going bad.
All right. Well, thinking about food going bad, parasites and things like that, another inevitable question from students, whether an astronaut or an ocean rower, is the bathroom situation. Is it bucket and chuck it on board, I imagine?
Yes, it is. It is. I do use a bucket, and I have a toilet brush, and that bucket comes in handy. I fill it, say, a third of the way up with seawater, and then I can dump it overboard when I'm done with number 2. Number 1, I use a bottle, a big bicycling water bottle with a large mouth. That's easy to handle, and you just dump it overboard. In storm conditions, I do have a big Gatorade bottle that I take inside the cabin if I am going to be confined in the cabin for a while. Then it becomes a challenge inside, so don't spill it in the cabin.
Well, these are important logistical questions for students. They always want to make sure that that's, how is that happening? Do you have that under control? So it sounds like you've got some good methods, even for that rough water action.
Yeah.
So I do want to share a few links here. and I'm going to share these with the live classrooms. I'll post them on our social media as well. But it looks like, Erden, that there's going to be tracking, live tracking, when you hit the water. So I've got that link up there. I'll share that via the chat as well, so students can kind of follow along over the summer and see how you're doing, what the progress is like. And then I mentioned Ryan and Doug have been working on a great story map. So I've got that link there. I'm going to share that via the chat on YouTube right now. So classrooms can check that out, learn a little bit more about Erden and the adventure that is coming up. So yeah, I think this was a great little intro. It was great to see the boat. It was great to see your home for the next 11 or so months. And Doug, it's really exciting. You know, as Erden mentioned, there's a team behind him. Even though he's out on the water, there will be a team who's making sure that people know what's happening, are learning from the journey, making changes, lifestyle changes to help protect our ocean. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of excitement in Hong Kong as Erden starts to get closer and closer.
Yeah, we're already planning a flotilla of rowboats and paddling boats and outrigger canoes, surf skis, sailboats, maybe even some open water swimmers. So we look forward to seeing you in about 11 months, Erden.
I am looking forward to that myself. Let's hope that it happens.
It's going to be an amazing trip, you know, really for everyone, and the ocean, education, and sports. I mean, this is a perfect storm of athletes, adventure, good news on the environment, and education. So Joe, thanks for putting this all together as well. It's really exciting to be able to work with you on this, and two continents working together.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to share the journey. We're excited to bring as many students as possible along for that ride. And just a reminder, because I know in the US, classrooms are already starting to go out. In Canada, we'll be out at the end of June. We may be able to squeeze one event in towards the end of June. We'll see how things are going. But just a reminder too, check that tracking page, because all summer long you can track the journey. Hopefully we'll do an event or two over the summer and put them up on the website so that you can catch up. And then once we're back in school, then we'll bring everybody live in with us again.
There will be a blog page on there as well. I'll be telling the story. So during the summer, when the school's out, students can still follow and learn. And then in fall, we will reconnect.
Yeah, so we'll have a blog on oceanrecover.org is our site, and the Westbound Rower, if you search under that, and then we'll have the whole education program and different things every week. So through the whole summer, you can start tracking this even though you're not in school.
All right. Well, Doug, thank you for staying up tonight. Get some rest. I'm sure you have a busy World Ocean Day ahead of you coming shortly. Erden, thank you so much. Sending some great weather your way, so you hit the water on time. And we're looking forward to following this amazing journey north of the equator. Very cool.
See you soon in Hong Kong, Erden.
All right. Thanks, Doug. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
All right, classrooms, have a great rest of the week. We'll see you for more ocean events all week long. Thanks, everyone.